And then I will go try to find Kaya and tell her, come over here. They got me with the room switch. I went to the wrong room. Okay. Be met. Jacqueline Zadeja. Is it like Jacqueline or Jacqueline? Okay, Jacqueline. Okay. And they have a Spanish part on that. I'm like, do I have to say that? Yeah. Is it like French a little bit? Yes. I started preparing them. Send them to you guys. Like a line. And I was like, oh, you were about it. Six. If you have a little bit of extra, yeah, I have a little extra. I have like the three sort of like thrown in my own. Also, like community engagement. Feel support, yeah. Look at me all the way. I feel like
Pretend we're talking. Action photo.
This one is going to be for you guys to use. We'll get back to you. This one's going to be Q&A for the audience. Yeah, and when you guys are
You guys want a photo of you guys behind them rather than an angle? I can take it where you get straight on. That is what I do for the district. There you go. I can do that for you. I'll do both. Okay, I'll do portrait and. You have both views, okay?
Appreciate it.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
They're probably gonna search you guys.
This is a small one. Are you involved in that? Yes. Okay. But if the most part,
How many mics do we have? We only have one mic.
Testing one.
Testing, testing.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. I'm going to ask you to say good morning to me too after this morning. So, good morning. My name is Kaya Williams. Thank you for joining us here today. I'm really excited to be here and see all of you. This is the Empowering Overburdened Communities Bridging the Resource Gap for Environmental Justice breakout session. I'm really excited to be here joining with the Environmental Protection Network, serving as their community outreach manager. I'm very familiar with working with communities and community leaders on the ground. It's the work I do every day. So I'm really excited to be here with all of you and to be able to join this discussion on it and just discuss and brainstorm ways that we can uplift communities that suffer from environmental justice. So at EPN, we do many things, but for the most part, we do analyzing of proposed budgets for the EPA, appropriation of bills, rulemaking initiatives, and offer pro bono technical assistance to underserved and under-resourced communities and EJ communities all over the country, serving to uplift them, build confidence, empower them, and also actively listen to them, and just really just be there to uplift them in any way and help their capacity for free. So within EPN, we also help and work very closely with the agency. So we also train, guide, and collaborate with other technical assistance providers and agencies, as well as working with my colleagues who are all community outreach associates to kind of bridge this gap and make these community leaders and also these potentially former bureaucrats feel complimented. So before we begin, I just wanted to briefly review some ground rules and general instructions for this meeting. Please be aware that this meeting is recorded. By participating in this breakout room hosted by South Coast AQMD. You agree to authorize the recording and visual content presented during the live event and consent to the subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD. And also, if you would like to listen to this meeting in Spanish, you can join via Zoom or use the link in Whova. We will have translators ready to translate this in real time. Okay, so now that we have reviewed all of those housekeeping items, we can start the discussion. I'm really honored to be joined today by this esteemed group of professionals who are committed to their respective communities and fight for environmental justice and most importantly here, clean air. This panel aims to address the resource challenges faced by overburdened individuals and community leaders and organizations working towards environmental justice. In many cases, these individuals and organizations lack the capacity to access and apply for grant opportunities and overall just resources in general. This session will explore practical strategies and initiatives that can provide support and assist with securing resources and other capacity building practices. Our panel of experts are from successful community-based organizations or CBOs and grant funding organizations. They will share their experiences, their practices, and lessons learned during addressing this issue and disparities, and overall just coming together to have a critical conversation, solution-based conversation. Before we begin our discussion, I want to briefly just introduce the panelists we have today, starting with Mark Carell over here. So Mark is the current president and CEO of Breathe Southern California. Breathe is a nonprofit and a nonpartisan organization that promotes clean air and healthy lungs through research, education, advocacy, and technology. So please welcome Mark. Thank you. Next, we have Jacqueline Bindeo. Jacqueline is currently a chair in the Climate Emergency Mobilization Commission for the City of Los Angeles and the executive director of Watskanda, a nonprofit organization devoted to community and human development in the historic community of Watts, Los Angeles. She is also a project manager for the Watts Clean Air and Energy Committee. Please welcome Jacqueline. Next, we have Dr. Heng Lee, joined the Department of Civil Construction and Environmental Engineering at San Diego State University as an assistant professor last August of 2022. Dr. Lee's research combines engineering techniques and data mining approaches to better understand air pollution resources, emission, and impacts. So thank you, Dr. Lee, for joining us. And last, but of course not least, we have Karan Kumar. Karan is the Deputy Director of Equity and Government Transformation for the California Strategic Growth Council, where he oversees a portfolio of climate-related community assistant and research programs. Thank you for joining us. Again, thank you all for being here with us today, whether you're in person or joining in via Zoom. I want to thank all of the amazing work you're doing in your communities, and also just being a part of this and willing to have these conversations and discussions. Identifying resources and programs for community-based organizations can be extremely challenging. During the session, we will dive into pragmatic strategies and initiatives that offer assistance and guidance in acquiring funding and other resources for these communities and leaders. Our panelists will draw from their experiences to share best practices and insights on adding resources, addressing resources disparities. So this first question is for Dr. Lee and Karan Kumar. The state of California and federal government has been driving environmental justice policies and invested significant resources to assist communities in addressing these environmental justice and air quality issues. Can you share a little bit more about how your organizations have been involved in this process?
Sure, I'm happy to start. And I just wanted to say, I'm one of those bureaucrats, but I call myself an advocrat that you work with. Kiran Kumar, so I work with the California Strategic Growth Council, which is in the Governor's Office of Planning and Research. I oversee kind of what I call an inside-outside strategy on capacity building. So outside, investing deeply in the capacity of communities to self-determine the solutions, ultimately that communities know to be best for addressing environmental harms and climate change, and then internally building the capacity of state government to be better partners to community. And so I'll quickly just run through maybe 4 different ways that we are kind of addressing the question, but also really investing in the capacity of communities. So first, the California Strategic Growth Council, we're best known as kind of large grant funders, large programs like the Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Program, Transformative Climate Communities in Watts, for example, and then a new Community Resilience Centers program. We're infrastructure funders. As part of that funding, though, we recognize, and I think our entire theory of change is built around this idea that we can invest in and pass policy around climate change and environmental justice till we're all blue in the face. But if we're not investing in the capacity of communities themselves to actually drive those decisions, we run the risk of perpetuating the same harms that led us to where we are today. And so with those infrastructure programs, we really focus on a kind of co-power building implementation approach where we structure all of the kind of project management around these infrastructure projects as a community-driven initiative. We have what we call collaborative stakeholder structures, where communities really actually, through what is best kind of referred to as a participatory budgeting process, really identify which projects are moving forward, where and how. And so that's one key way in our infrastructure funding. But again, I think what we've realized over the years of putting money into these huge grants is many communities across California don't have the partnerships and networks, partnerships in place, don't have the trust in place with local government to effectively go after these dollars. And so what we have done is gone upstream from the infrastructure to really invest in the capacity of those networks and individual sectors to really be leaders in the space of climate change. And so I'll just quickly touch on kind of the major program that we have around capacity building is our Regional Climate Collaboratives Grant Program, 3-year operational support funding to networks of partners to really do the base building work that it takes to come together around what eventually become these larger community development projects. We realize that community-based organizations are organizing all the time, but that's unfunded, and it's the responsibility of the state to put money towards that. Really quick, the last two, we can do all of that work, but if it still is impossible for folks to actually apply to these grants and implement them, there's no point, right? So we've been doing a lot of work to really simplify these programs as much as possible. One thing I'm really excited for is that last year, internally, we pushed for the state's very first advanced pay pilot program to really allow more state agencies to use advanced pay as a way to get money out to communities faster. And then finally, research. Research in California drives so much of what we invest in and so much of the policy that we build. And for community not to be involved in the actual scoping of that research is a huge missed opportunity. Research in California is power. And so as part of the California Fifth Climate Change Assessment, which is a huge research initiative, we are kind of co-running that program with the Natural Resources Agency and the Office of Planning and Research. And we're actually requiring for the very first time that researchers at the universities actually fund community partners to co-develop the research with them as a way to ensure that we're embedding community priorities and needs now into the research that's going to inform 20 years worth of investment. So I'll stop there and I'll pass it over to my colleague.
Okay, thanks for the question here. I'm from San Diego State University, and for those who don't know, SDSU is federally designated Hispanic serving institution. They are also Asian American, Native American, and Pacific Islander serving institutions. So we are commitment to serving the diverse San Diego region. We have been involved in different environmental justice projects, but here I'm speaking on behalf of my colleague, Dr. Rebecca Lewison. She is the professor of biology at SDSU. She and her team has recently funded by US EPA to establish a center, the Center for Environmental and Energy Justice. And we call the center as CJ. You know, this center is funded under the EPA's Environmental and Climate Justice Communities Grant Program. And actually this program is a new holistic program, and is also a technical assistant program. So basically it focuses on the needs of communities, also propelling them towards the implementation of solutions. So, you know, there are several stages of this program, from assistance to development to collaboration and then implementation of solutions. And our center fits in the first stage of the program, assistance. So basically we provide technical assistance for community members, and you can think our center as the front door for communities to get access to funding opportunities and seek assistance. We provide different kinds of services. For example, we work with communities to identify challenges and needs of environmental justice. We also provide training about how to navigate governmental systems during the grant application. We also provide knowledge and understanding of environmental justice related grants opportunities. So, you know, if I'm interested in learning the up-to-date information of our center, and if your community need assistance, I have some flyers printed out in both English and Spanish, and you are welcome to scan the QR code. Once submitted the ticket, the representative from our center will reach out to you and talk about the next steps. And if you are joining the session online, you can search for CCEEJ SDSU to learn more about our center. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you both. That was great. So my next question is going to be for Mark and Jacqueline. Coming from a value provider providing pro bono technical assistance, I'm very curious from your perspective working with a community-based organization, how it has been working with government entities, other value providers, and overall just other entities to gather resources, and also just what resources you found most helpful in this relationship, and overall just your relationship and how that normally works and how it benefits you most.
Hello. Hi. First, let me just tell you about Breathe Southern California. We've been around for 120 years, and we started out as a focus on tuberculosis when that was the biggest killer in the world, and we have moved on to lung disease in general, and the two main causes of lung disease, which are tobacco use and air pollution. And so we've been focused on clean air issues, particularly because LA has always been known for its smog, and we are trying to get help in improving air quality. From a perspective of an organization that is always in search of money, and I can't say that there's a nonprofit out here who's not always in search of money, it's been refreshing to see government agencies over the last decade creating environmental justice specific grants where they're focused on the underserved communities, disadvantaged communities. US EPA, Cal EPA, CARB, and the air districts all have different programs. So we've always applied for them. What's difficult is, as Kieran talked about earlier, it's making things simple. And a lot of nonprofits, we don't have a grant writer on staff. We have a contractor now, but there are often points where we don't have a grant writer, and we have people internally trying to put grants together who are not that knowledgeable about putting a grant together. And a government grant is much more complicated than a corporate grant, and it's very difficult sometimes to know what is being asked. What I have found most useful is attending those sessions that are always there. Unfortunately, if you hear about something late, you miss the session, but watching the recorded session where they answer questions, and trying again. We have put proposals together, and when we didn't get, we've asked for a review with the staff to understand what it is how we missed the mark, what it was that we did that they weren't looking for, that they were looking for. The biggest thing that I've noticed is we don't always read every little thing in the grant application, and they're mentioning 100 little things, but it's making sure that you touch every point because they're scoring you on every single point. And if you don't touch on one, you could lose enough points so that somebody else who has that in there is getting ahead of you. You can put a fantastic proposal together, but if there's only so much money and it's oversubscribed in terms of the applications by 10 times the amount of money, you may not get the grant, even if you have a great grant. And so it's always difficult. And getting support, getting assistance from the grant makers, getting assistance from free organizations, like Kaya's, getting a support from volunteers is always useful. But there's no silver bullet in getting money from government agencies. And what I have, the best advice that I've been given and that I've taken, and it was even mentioned in the plenary, was join with others. Build a group of a coalition, or even just a group of people, a group of organizations that's apply together, because government agencies looking to support communities are looking for broader support in the community than just one organization. And if you are allied with 2 or 3 other organizations, then you have a better shot, but you also have a better reach in terms of the ability to impact people in that community, which is what they're looking for. And you're going to get often a more well-rounded proposal, because other groups are doing things you don't do, and you do things they don't do. When I every time I'm at one of these events, and it doesn't have to be a government conference, but any conference I go to, any meeting I go to, I'm always looking for new contacts that to tell them what we work on and to learn what they work on. And I'm always trying to think, how can we figure out a project to work on together? And that's what leads us sometimes to do a lot of the proposals.
Yes, thank you. Collaboration is the name of the game. So everyone, thank you so much for being here today. It's very important that you all come and participate and that your voices are heard after we finish speaking, right? And so my name is Jacqueline Baldejo again. I am the president of the LA Mayor's Climate Emergency Mobilization Commission. And with that position, that's why I'm encouraging you all to continue to participate. It's so many things that needs to be done and addressed. You heard earlier, Dr. White Newsome speak about, the collaborations and the different things that need to happen. So I just want to put that on your mind. But for environmental justice, since 2014, Watts Clean Air and Energy Committee, we have been working on clean air as a human right. And at the end of the day, air, it does not leave out water, soil, everything is connected. When one is born, you begin in the womb. And that is where the water, your relationship with water first begins. And so it's important to try to maintain that healthy relationship as we flow through this universe, right? And so with that, one of our major things, it's like, wow, times are changing, right? You have the burgeoning green industry. And it's like, okay, I'm representing Watts, California. I was born and raised, but then also I have many positions that put me in a larger LA County area. It's like, what do we do? And so one of the things that we wanted to make sure is that we did form partnerships with other organizations. We kind of went slow, learned about them like Grid Alternatives. We referred a lot of community members there to get various trainings and, put to work. And when you find those partners who care for the community, you stick with them. So currently with them, we are part of the e-truck rudder research for the electrification of the Long Beach and Alameda corridors. And so it's very intense, making sure that now the new education that comes along with this new technology, it makes sense. And so we have the technical working group, workforce development, community first. And that's something that's very important because if we don't prepare ourselves for these opportunities, then we risk of being left behind. It's so much happening. And so another good partner also too was Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator. That baby over there on Hewitt Street in the Arts District, right? And so with them, I personally, because we refer people to different opportunities, I make sure that I experience it myself to ensure that it's a benefit for the community. And I participated in the EVSE, electric vehicle supply equipment, right? Electric vehicle chargers training. And with that, it was for LA County. It was a good program and they placed you in an internship. So long story short, making sure that we partner with people who can provide opportunities for the people. So when we're in these positions of serving the community, we have to make sure that we're always assessing the community's needs and then aligning with partners who can provide the benefit. And that's how we all win. And so I know it was so many conversations. It was a topic earlier with the discussion with our chair, the South Coast AQMD and Dr. Newsome, White Newsome. And with that, the collaboration is so important. So Mr. Kumar, when you were speaking about the Strategic Growth Council, I was a firecracker. I said, what is this? You guys giving it to Watts. The thing that made it probably more challenging for a community leader is that, this not like just community applying for this. This is the housing authority of the city of Los Angeles. And all of these partners, they're not local partners. I personally gave so many intellectual property for it to flow and work right. to the point you just let it go because you want the right thing to be done. And for the longest time, we struggle with having the proper project management components. And so that gets me just into this one last point. Like I said, everything is connected. And the methodology that we use with Watts Clean Air and Energy Committee is called Virtual Community Asset Planning with E7 Studios. You have to know who owns the land, what's above and below the ground. And then whoever owns it, that is what programming could be applied in that space. And it's the only way. I don't care how many times the EPA come down and say, oh, we have grants and we have technical assistance. But does it make sense on the geospatial map? Does all of the utilities connect together? Are we going to have a system that works? And so that's pretty much the point. And then just I want to bring it all together. One last thing, Watts Conda, that's the nonprofit, the umbrella of Watts Clean Air. It stands for water, air, transportation, telecommunications, and sustainability, connecting natural resources, agriculture, natural resources, and a demonstration of alliance. The K in connecting is the kinetic energy of the community. If we're not doing it for the people, and if we're not empowering it so the people can do it, then we have all failed and we're going to find ourselves in this vicious cycle moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you both. That was extremely powerful. And I think I admire all of you on this panel and all of you listening just for your resilience and just, willing to work towards these complex issues. I think the major theme is that there's not one or any solutions to these. So you do have to take a very intersectional and critical approach when thinking of solutions. And also one thing I heard was using that power of voice to identify entities that you trust. So maybe partnering with other community-based organizations and leaders to get references for trusted entities to get those resources and overall work with other value providers. Okay, well, thank you again. And I think one other question I really want to touch on is that, obviously sharing experiences and perspectives from both of your perspectives is extremely important. So I would be curious to hear a little bit more how you, or what you've experienced and what you've gained in your work that could be insightful for others listening on either policy or really just any work to support air quality. And yeah, what you've found and what you find most insightful. And this is for anyone. It's very, very broad.
Well, what have I found insightful? I think a few things are that don't try to, well, as nonprofits know, it takes as much work to apply for a $2,500 grant as it does for a $25,000 grant. And there may be even more restrictions on the $2,500 grant in terms of reporting and showing the receipts and all of that. So look and see what you're getting into before you apply, because it could be it take a lot more than the $2,500 you're getting. It could take a lot more money to actually implement the grant. And second, the partnerships are critical, but if you can align yourself with another group and the grant doesn't really fit what you're doing, it's often not worth fitting a square peg into a round hole, because then you're going to have to hire some consultants, or then you're going to have to learn and spend more time learning what you're doing. And it's better when it's in your mission and when it's in your wheelhouse, because then you can just get going once the grant comes. And also your grant probably won't be as good because you're not as expert in that area. And then last, particularly with grant, and I'll mention the Strategic Growth Council, we're putting ours together. The deadline is Monday, I guess, they're a bear. And so the most important thing is don't wait till 2 weeks before the grant is due to start looking at what's required. When you hear about it, and hopefully you hear about it right when it comes out, start planning for who you need to reach out to, what kind of letters you need to do, what kind of other work you need to get done, and map it all out so that you have the time, your staff has the time to do everything, and you're not going to miss the deadline, and that you're getting it done even earlier so you can proofread it and make sure everything's there and have a couple other people read it. Don't rely on doing an all-nighter like we've all done, because usually what happens with an all-nighter is you barely get the D or C, and if you want to get the grant, you need to start planning from the beginning and map it all out and do that. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. I'll just add for anyone in the room also facing that issue, if you are looking for grant writing support or overall feedback and review, again, there is a lot of trusted value providers and NGOs that do offer that support for free. So hopefully you can use your funds to go to something that might not be offered pro bono, but thank you. Jacqueline?
Yes. What have we benefited? So bridging the resources, right? Filling in the gaps. One thing for sure is Watts Clean Air. We participate as a co-lead. This is the first time ever with AB 617 communities that community organizations have been a co-lead for the program. And so with South LA, we fought hard. We said, no, we're going to include Watts. We're going to include Willowbrook and Compton and Inglewood. We made sure that we chose all the communities that, you know, were kind of sent to the side and getting left out of all the other established communities. And so you have to be aware of everything, what jurisdiction you are. If you're standing in the middle of the street, you know, where are you? You have to know where you are at all times, and only then will you be able to benefit from the opportunities that present themselves. And so with this, you know, AB 617 communities, you set the cert priorities, right? How are you gonna reduce those emissions? You know, that's something that's very important. And when you set those priorities, it infringes or it reestablishes I would say pretty much the infrastructure of the community. And so that's where it becomes a critical game, because you have to make sure that you're not going to establish programming just for the sake of funding that's going to lead to criminalizing the community. And then the other thing is, I know sometimes everyone's going for that one grant, right? Yeah, then we see all the divisions and how everybody feel about each other on this side of town or over there, or this my lane, stay on your lane. I've heard so many different communications, right? But we are stronger together. That's one thing that I could say. Everyone has a special skill set, a special something given to them. And the more that we are able to assess those skills of each and everyone and come together in a consortium, right? Like Watts Rising, Collaborative, or other groups that exist, then you'll be able to have the proper framework in place so you can begin to establish those common goals and learn how to vet the processes that's going to lead to success. Because we don't want to fail. Because once we fail in these grants, sometimes people say, oh, I didn't meet my deliverables. Oh, well, no, you're impacting someone's life, a mother, her child, a family, and a community. And then the other one thing, it was very interesting as this infrastructure change is coming, you know, I began to realize how it's impacting different zoning, right? So we want to make sure that these businesses can also participate and survive, especially when they are the landowners. And I know we don't have too much time left, so I would leave it at that. But it's a lot of benefits. Relationship building is definitely something that has helped position us a certain way.
Yeah, thank you. So I just want to be clear because I was called a bear earlier. Just kidding.
No, not
I know
you.
the programs.
Unless you think it's a good thing.
I hear it. I don't want to sit up here and even give 1% of indication that we're defensive. I think it is 100% valid. The two things that I heard. One is these grant programs continue to be incredibly complicated and difficult to apply to and then implement, to your point, right? Like you missed a deliverable, that can be seen as a mark against you for future programs. And so we're working really hard to shift that culture, but I also want to be realistic that there are agencies, to not be named, who call me and say, wait, you give money to nonprofits, is that legal? So there's more work to be done in state government. And so we're trying to solve for that. And then the other point I heard, which was we're still funding infrastructure projects to the existing systems of power that have perpetuated harm in communities, but then all of a sudden saying, oh, but you should work together. And I want to recognize that that's not easy either. And it's not the silver bullet where we have said, okay, we gave them a grant, magically they're going to work together and it's all going to be kumbaya. What I will say, though, is lessons learned have pushed us to go further upstream, and increasingly there's funding available that is to do the partnership building, because that, right, when you see everybody applying to the same grant, everybody's kind of defensive. Imagine if you had the funding 6 months to 2 years ahead of time to actually build a relationship and say, where are we all going? What kind of money do we want to pursue? And so the two things I wanted to just kind of practically, grants.gov through the California State Library is the best place in state government to get a sense of not just what funding is available on what timeline, but what is involved. Is it worth your time to go after these grants, or is it going to be such a bear to apply that maybe it's worth spending time elsewhere? But grants.gov is an excellent resource. And then two is, and this is my own perspective from working at the local nonprofit level and as an organization that kept getting shoehorned into doing public engagement. And as an environmental justice group, we were saying we have so much more to offer than just public engagement and community outreach. Yes, we have the relationships, but we also have a vision that we want to bring forward and then embed that into plans and policies moving forward. And so what I would say is look for some of the grants available at the state government level, like TCC planning grants, Cal EPA's EJ Action grants, even the active transportation program at Caltrans has a planning grant. While they have the word planning, I think nonprofits sometimes say, okay, that's planning, that's what local government does. A lot of these planning programs have seen some maturity and evolution in the last 10 years and are really recognizing that we as the state need to be investing in the vision of community. They don't have to be specific plans or, zoning changes, but they are plans. And so what I would say is there are opportunities out there to move away from just being shoehorned into the public engagement role and actually having some money to do community-based planning. And then the final thing I would say is build a relationship with the state folks too. I know that seems kind of painful and scary, especially if you don't have that relationship. But to your point about these programs that are really oversubscribed, sometimes we're humans. I see that a program that we had put out there had 10x the oversubscription, and then I see those same applications come in the next round. I want to fund those programs. And so I really do encourage, where possible, to build relationships with some of the state folks who are listed on grants.gov, who are some of the administrators of those programs, just to share some kind of practical thoughts working at the state level.
We're coming at time, but Dr. Lee, if you have any final thoughts, okay, well, thank you all. I think obviously these themes are a lot of service learning approaches, trying to figure out how to work collaboratively with community-based organizations, not on community-based organizations. So definitely listening actively. And like you said, it's a bear sometimes, but these are still individual people, and you can find relationships and trusting relationships to actively work towards these solutions and work together. I think there's power in numbers, and definitely lean on support. Even something like grants.gov, it's very easy if you know how to do it, but it can be a little difficult to navigate. And there's countless NGOs and nonprofits that provide, walkthroughs and free support for these maybe a little bit more difficult or harder to navigate websites or long documents. So definitely reach out to everyone in this room, use this as a space to network and rely on one another to find these trusted relationships to really work towards these solutions. So I just want to thank everyone on this panel and obviously all of you in the room for joining us today. So if everyone could just join me in a quick round of applause to thank everyone here. And I just want to remind everyone again that you should definitely use this opportunity to network and meet people to support you, because we all, everyone being all of these panelists, everyone listening in the room, we all have the power to address these issues and make a difference. So I definitely want to use this opportunity to do so. And yeah, so thank you so much. I'm going to invite you back to the main room for lunch and the plenary session. I apologize. No Q&A. We are at time, but this was helpful. Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy a good lunch.
I'm good. I'm good. I'll see you in. Yes, I will see you next Monday. I'm working on the presentation now. Hopefully, it's good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so good to see you. It's nice to hear. So, are you working with Dr. Lewis?
Oh, okay. I can give you the contact.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. And then, yeah, thank you. Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Okay.